So, hey guys, it's Mayana, and I just want to briefly mention that I changed my YouTube name to Little Wolf Reads. 2018, I wanted a big change for my channel, so I changed a lot of things. I changed my intro, my outro, my camera quality, hopefully my sound quality. I also want to change my YouTube name just because I've been wanting to make it Little Wolf Reads for a long time.
I think Coolsville sucks.
What you call an icon living? Puerto Rican little miss just did it. I love over 5 minutes. Whoa, we up too hot in the place.
I really don't like how close this camera is to me, but I guess it's fine. So as you guys can see, I have a ring light now. Okay, so today I'm going to finally be filming my worst books of 2018. I originally wasn't going to record this video, but then I got a question on my Curious Cat, so I figured it'll be fun, like, you know, why not? So this video isn't in order, and I'm probably not gonna hold up the books just because I probably got rid of them because I didn't like them. So I'll just put up a picture on the side here, and also I'm going to be doing this thing where I link the books I'm talking about, the Goodreads list, to them. I'll link them in the description box, so you know you can always like click on them and like read the description for yourself if I don't explain it good enough for you. So these aren't like they're not all terrible books that I read. They're more so, you know, they're not all terrible. They're just books that I gave like 3 stars and under that I really didn't enjoy. So let's get started. The first book I have is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, and I think I gave this book 4 stars or 3 stars, I can't remember, but looking back on it, I really didn't enjoy it. When I first read this book, I read it summer 2017, and then I just wasn't feeling it around that time, and I thought it was because I was in a reading slump. And then I finished it earlier this year, and like my first couple of days on booktube I finished it, and then I moved on to the second book, and everyone was saying like, oh, the second book gets better and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, like I won't judge too harshly on it. The second book didn't get better. I didn't finish the second book. I like that we focused on Ronan because he was my favorite character, and I found that I just don't think I like character driven books that much. Like I need a plot. And the like only girl in the group of guys is like literally my favorite trope ever, so I wanted to love this book so much. I loved Ronan, I loved Noah, and like I wanted to love this story as much as everyone else did, but I just didn't. The next book I have on my list is The Taken by Kimberly Darden, which I have a book review on it, and I just didn't like this book because I had such high expectations for it. It's a sci-fi novel. So The Taken is about this girl who is coming home. Her dad is driving her home from like her, I think, soccer practice, and then her and her dad get into like this argument, so she's like, let me out, and she gets out of the car, and then the next day she wakes up in front of the same place that she like remembers being at, and it turns out it's actually 5 years later, and she like, everyone thought she was like abducted, and then like her dad suspects she was taken by little green people, and like you would think that that was just like a really good novel, but it was very insta-lovey, and it was also weird. The insta-love was really weird. So when she came back, she found out that her boyfriend was dating her best friend, and then she ends up like hanging out with her ex-boyfriend's little brother, who might have was like 12 by the time she was abducted. And like I get that she and him are like the same age now, but like the last time you seen him, dude, was like when he was 12, and you believe that was yesterday. So now all of a sudden it's like okay to you to like date him, and it was just like really strange to me. So wasn't. Next book I have is Disclaimer, and I forget who the author is, but this book was about this girl, well, this woman, because it's an adult book, this woman who one day wakes up, well, she has this book, and like the book literally has everything that happened in her life. And so it's just like a mystery of like who wrote this book, like how do they know what happened to her, and like it has all of her friends and like her son, her husband, but it's like it's not saying that it's her, but like it obviously is her. And so she's like trying to figure out like, okay, like what the heck, like how does this person know the things that happened to me, like the secret. She has this big secret. She wants to know like how do they know the secret. And I didn't like the book because one, it dragged on very long. It had different point of views, and it was really hard for me to tell sometimes like who was who. And I didn't like the ending. I didn't like what the plot twist was. I think it was a cop-out, and I just personally, it made me feel sick, and I didn't like how her husband dealt with it. I just didn't like the ending. I didn't like the plot twist. Everything was like, it was like a big cop out to me, and I wasn't feeling it. The next book I have on my list is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, and I read this book the beginning of the year. Like it was like the first book I read, and it was the only book I read for 3 months. Like I read it in 2 days. I read it in January in 2 days. I read it like January 1st. And then I didn't read anything up until I started booktube in April. So yeah, I didn't like The Summer I Turned Pretty. It was about this girl named Belly, which I loved her name. I loved that name. I don't know why. It was about this girl named Belly, and every summer her mom and her mom's best friend, who has 2 sons, and her mom, Belly's mom, has her and her brother, and then her mom's best friend has the 2 boys. I forget their name. I think one name is Jeremiah. I don't remember the other one name. So they all go to this like beach house every summer, and this summer she like glows up. She's like 16 now. She's like beautiful, whatever. I just didn't like the story because the whole story, like she was dating this one guy, and it was like she was dating a guy that wasn't even one of the brothers, and like that was like the whole story. And I really hate when authors do that, because it's like an easier way to keep the story going, because then you'd be like, oh, you know, like he had nothing to do with the book at all, and I'm pretty sure he was never mentioned in like the sequel or the 3rd book. And I read this book after I read To All the Boys I Loved Before. Jenny Han has a kink for long titles, I see, but it was you know, the summer the summer I turned before, To All the Boys I Loved Before, it has the love triangle trope, which I didn't mind in that book, even though it had 2 love triangles. And like, so when I was reading it, like that's what it had, 2 triangles, and at that point it had 2 love triangles, and I didn't mind it for that. But then going back and reading another story where she has another love triangle that travels through like the whole series, I just wasn't feeling it. And I bought all 3 books to support my queen, and I read the ending of the 3rd book, and it was like you already knew who she was gonna get with. So like there's no point in me reading it. Like you already knew it was gonna happen. Like there was nothing special about this story. Like To All the Boys I Loved Before, I think the part that really intrigued me with that book was the fact that she wrote love letters, and like they all got mailed out, and it was like kind of like a mystery trying to figure out who guessed. Like, you know, it was like it was like something in there to keep me entertained. The Summer I Turned Pretty, nothing interesting except it was a love triangle. So then we have, this actually really disappointed me, but we have Carrie, which I do own. So the next book on my list is Carrie by Stephen King, which I am keeping this book because as much as I hate the book, I love the movie. Like Carrie is, I'm like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like I love horror movies. Like I literally, that's all I really watch is horror movies. And so Carrie is like one of my favorite horror movies. Yes, the 2013 one, because Ansel Elgort, a masterpiece. That end scene where the car is like, you know, hanging at this point, Carrie's like here, and then like Chris is trying to get out or whatever, and then Carrie lets the car go, and the car drives, and Chris's head bangs into the window, and like a masterpiece. Okay, so you would think that I would love Carrie, and I'm keeping this because I want to start my own like Stephen King like bookshelf, so I'm gonna keep this. Okay, I need it in hardcover though, but all the hardcovers are ugly. I'm getting off topic here. I'm so sorry, guys. So I didn't really like Carrie because I didn't like how the story was written. It was written in like document form, like newspapers and documents, and then it was switched to like Carrie's point of view, and it never indicated when it was Carrie or when it was like a document or a newsletter or anything. So that really confused me. And also it was like an interview form for Sue towards the end, and like I didn't like that. It was really hard for me to read, and I gave this 3 stars because I was biased because I loved the movie. But in reality, I probably would have given this book 2 stars. I wanted more. Okay, next I have You by Caroline Kepnes, which I wasn't feeling her. I did not like it. And I actually liked the whole like the second point of view. Like I liked all of that. I liked Joe. It was just, it felt like it dragged on, and this book could have been like 100 pages less. Like I just didn't like I liked how he was like stalking her and like trying to get with her, and she didn't know he was stalking her, but they were like dating. But then it got like towards the middle, it was just like nothing in the middle was important. Like I don't remember what happens in the middle, honestly. That's why I'm like, don't want to watch the show, but I know the show is going to be good anyways. And plus, my man Penn Badgley is in it, and I am obsessed with him. Who am I not obsessed with at the same time? Like, you know. So I think I am going to give it a try. But like, I didn't like the book. I didn't like the ending. Like, we all knew how it was going to end. The next book is actually really depressing. It was one of my most anticipated books of 2017. It came out 2017. It came out September 2017. It's called There's Somebody Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. You know, so I read this book and I actually liked it. I gave it 3 stars, but it was really disappointing me because there was too much kissing, not enough killing. Okay, I liked the main character and her love interest. Like, I liked it. It was kind of insta-lovey, but not really, you know. Like, it had an insta-lovey feel to it, but it wasn't insta-lovey because, like, over time, like, they had crushed on each other for over time. It just kind of fast how it happened, but like, it was too much romance and not enough killing. It was kind of like in a movie, like the couples are like kissing in the middle and like the serial killer is chasing someone around in the background, and like, you want the camera to focus on the background, but the camera is focusing on them kissing. And if I wanted to watch kissing, then I would go watch a romance movie, but I'm here to watch a horror movie, so show me the people getting murdered. And I just thought it would be right up my alley because I love slashers. Like, slashers are my favorite type of horror movies, and so I love slashers. And this was like obviously like inspired by Scream, which is one of my, like, Scream is like my very favorite horror movie. It's like the horror movie that got me into loving horror movies. So Scream is like my favorite horror movie. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna love this. And like, the beginning, I remember me and my sister were anticipating this book so bad. Like, we read like the preview chapter that they gave us, and I don't even read preview chapters. I'm sorry if you hear yelling in the background. My brother's playing video games. I remember reading the first chapter and it was so intriguing. When me and my sister both read the preview chapter, which I usually don't care for, so we were reading it, and I really liked how, like, in the beginning of the chapter, like, obviously the killer was like playing with the person's mind. Like, you know, she like had this, I think it was like a clock, and like she placed it somewhere, and like she got up and did something, and like it was placed somewhere else. And I liked that. I liked the murders and everything. The killer was very predictive. Like, I remember, I knew the killer wasn't going to be any of the main characters. Like, you know the killer isn't going to be any of the main characters. It wasn't enough side characters. So for me, I was like, okay, well, the killer is either going to be this person or this person. And this person is like, obviously like a love interest to another character. So it's clearly this person. Sorry if I low-key just spoiled that for you. The book wasn't that good anyways. I'm sorry if I low-key just spoiled that for you. I tried to be as discreet as possible, but it was very obvious who the killer was. Especially, I feel like if you watch horror movies or you read thrillers or mysteries or like anything with horror, like, you're gonna know who the killer is. So another disappointing week for me this year was The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, and it was most disappointing for me because I really loved this book cover. The Last Time I Lied was about this girl who went to this camp when she was like 15, and like all three of her campmates disappeared, and so she went back 15 years later to like find out what happened, and her 3 campmates disappear again. So it's like, what the heck? And of course she has a mental illness because that is like a recurring theme in mystery thriller novels. And so basically, I really liked Vivi. She was like my favorite character in the book. Vivi was one of the girls that Emma camped with when she was 15, who disappeared. I just feel like there was a plot point in the book. It wasn't like a big plot point, but it really didn't need to be there. And it was where this character, his name starts with a C. It was like the whole plot point with, I think his name was like Cody or Cole or like Kevin or something like that. Kevin doesn't start with a C. Yeah, so that whole plot point with him just was useless. I didn't like it. And there was like this whole like plot point with like a church, like an asylum that didn't even play a big deal in the book. So it was like, why is it here? Like, you know, I gave this book 3 stars instead of 2 stars because the ending had me shook. It had me so shook. Oh my gosh. I remember listening to it because I was listening to the ending, and when it happened, I was like, 3 stars, you know, like automatically 3 stars just because of the ending. I just love the ending so much. So like, if you want to read this book, I feel like Jake from Jake Does Books really liked it. Like, he gave it 4 stars or 5 stars. I think he gave it 5 stars. He really enjoyed this book. We buddy rated, by the way. I didn't. So I remember like, okay. Next on my list is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. Am I illiterate? Yes. By Margaret Rogerson, and I just did enjoy this video. This video is gonna be so long to edit. Love that. Okay, so basically An Enchantment of Ravens about this girl. So she ends up painting for like the fairy prince, I think, and she paints emotion in his eyes, and like, you know, she's not supposed to, so the prince who she paints ends up spiriting her away into like the fairyland, and like they have to go on this adventure so she can like go on trial for it. And I just didn't really like it. It was like very slow to me. Like I feel like a lot of other people would like it, but I just want to read it because after reading my favorite book of the year, The Cruel Prince, I wanted to know more about fairies, and obviously like people who write about fairies tend to stick to like the rules of it. Like they all have like this thing about it. So I heard that Enchantment of Ravens explains it a lot better, but I just feel like Enchantment of Ravens was very boring. I ended up falling asleep in the middle of it and like waking up when it was done, so lucky me. But I just didn't, because I was listening to the audiobook, I just didn't enjoy it. So I'm gonna give it a reread. I'm gonna give it another try, but I just thought it was like really boring. I really did love the writing though. The writing was very beautiful, and I will be reading her other book. I just feel like nothing happened in this book, and that's just like how I felt. Like, you know, I love tea, I love drama in my books, which is why I love The Cruel Prince, because that's basically all it is tea and drama. But there was none of that there, and I wasn't like comparing it to The Cruel Prince or anything. I was more so reading it so I can get information, and it wasn't giving me information. So I am gonna like give it a reread though. Okay, so finally, the very last book that I have on this list is The Wicked Deep by, I'm not gonna try that, I'm so sorry, but it's The Wicked Deep. Like, look how beautiful this cover is. I didn't like this book as much as I thought. Mika, Jake, and Bento all gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and it's like it just it didn't hit it. So in like 1822, these 3 women were drowned because the whole town believed that they were witches because they were so beautiful, and they were always taking everybody's man, and like everyone was just so jealous of them basically. And so they decided, we're gonna drown them. And so they said no. So they got their, now every summer they take the body of 3 girls and they drown 3 guys. Well, not 3 guys, they drown guys until like the whole solstice, I think, is over. Not solstice, but the whole like the time period that they had is over. I think it only lasts like 2 or 3 weeks, so I think like for that time, and then like it's over, and then like, okay, whatever. So the book was very predictable. I predicted, you know, it's really predictable. I feel like anyone would predict the situation that happened, and that didn't ruin my enjoyment for the book. Like, even though I predicted what happened, like I was like, okay, I usually predict what happens, so I didn't really care. I feel like the romance aspect of it was really weird because I don't want to ruin like what the situation happened, but it's really predictable, but like I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But the love interest situation was really weird to me, and it was like I just didn't, I don't want to spoil. Okay, so I'm gonna give spoilers for this one just because it's my last book. So if you want to leave, feel fine to, but I'm just gonna like end up talking about what happened because I feel like there's no way for me, my little tiny pea brain, like my 5 brain cells, for me to put it in a way where there's no way for me to put it to where I don't spoil you guys, because I have like 2 brain cells, so sorry. So basically, the main character's name is Penny, and she ends up making this character named Bo. And first of all, I feel like the romance between Bo and Penny were really weird because they didn't have, like, you know, he just came out of nowhere and then he just kept popping up, and like he just kept trying to talk to her for no reason whatsoever. And it was just weird to me. Like, to me, it was weird. So the romance happened out of nowhere. So I thought that was weird. But also, Penny is being taken over by one of the sisters. Like, her body, like, every single summer, like, it's not even, like, the first summer. Her body's being taken over by one of the sisters. And, she doesn't... And he finds out, and he's like, I'm still in love with her. And, like... But he's not in love with Penny. To me, it didn't seem like he was in love with Penny. Like, towards the end, like, it was, like, you know, like, she tried to write it to where it was, but like, he just wasn't in love with Penny to me. Like, that's what it seemed like. He was in love with the witch who was taking over his body. Even when she finally, like, when they finally like died and like they weren't coming back anymore summers, like they're gone, she ended up like, he ended up going to her grave, like giving her flowers, and like it was just really, it was weird to me. It was just so weird. Anyway, so that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Stay tuned for I think Wednesday I'm going to be one of my best books of 2018. And yeah, peace out, Girl Scout.
Baby, this is a microphone check. What you getting into when you get up? When I wake up early, I'ma text you. Heard you got a man, baby, I could do it better.